What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Chris 2 Cents podcast with Chris Stevens, a writer who's going to talk about his 2 cents with common sense. Greatly appreciate y'all for tuning in, as always, whether it be on YouTube with the video component or Spreaker with the audio component. And I'm sorry, y'all, but it is, you probably still hear with that little thing just happened now. It's cold season, and the colds have been kicking my butt. Like, this is the first few days that I've felt like completely normal in about a month. Like, cold season has just been a nightmare for me. And, being that I cover high school basketball in the state of Delaware, you shake hands with kids, you shake hands with coaches. It's a damn germ factory. It is a germ factory. And, with COVID and different things running around, this bird flu that's popping off, it's a mess out here. So if you can get vaccinated, get vaccinated. I ain't talking to you anti-vaxxers. This is probably not the channel for you if you don't believe in science. So you should probably just go ahead and click off this YouTube channel, click off the Spreaker audio if you're one of those anti-vax people, because I have no interest in engaging and debating with you about anything related to science. We already got a nut house that's the head of Health and Human Services that is more your kind, but that's disgusting. That being said, thank you all for tuning in. You can also find us. You can find me on social media at ChrisTheWriter on Bluesky, Instagram at Chris Stevens Writes. And if you want to ask a question or you want to pitch a guest or anything, we have an email address, Chris2Cents Podcast, ChrisTwoCentspodcast @gmail.com. Shoot me an email. If you listen to an episode and you want to ask me a question about something, you got some feedback, or if you just want to, say whatever's on your mind, we got an email for that. So feel free. I'm thinking about also doing like a newsletter for this as well. There's so many ways that I'm trying to, get this thing to really pop off. And shout out to my boss at HBCU Sports, Ken Rashad. He has been on my tail about really putting some muscle behind his podcast and his YouTube channel. He calls me all the time. He talks about it in our group chat for HBCU Sports. He's like, Chris, your content is great. You just got to start promoting it more. You just got to, start looking into more avenues to get more eyes and ears on your stuff. And I'm 100% in agreement with him, because the ideal scenario for me would be to be able to do HBCU sports full time still, because I love covering Black college sports. That is my dream job at the moment. And I'm thankful that I'm still able to live my dream and still be able to, keep a roof over my head for the most part. And also have this podcast as a separate component. As much as Stephen A. Smith has disappointed me, I can't knock his hustle. He's on First Take, and then he has his own show, the Stephen A. Smith Show. That's my ideal scenario. I still, am a journalist, and then I come at night or during the day or the weekends or whatever and do this. So that's my aim. Hopefully you guys can help me out with that. If you guys have any feedback, any suggestions, I am open to them, as long as it's constructive criticism, not just straight up hate, because I can tell the difference, and everybody can. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, and, with regards to how we perceive things and different things of that nature. But as far as this particular show, there's no real one topic in mind, because, again, I was out of commission for a week. I literally just had a frog in my throat. I had to do HBCU sports because, well, that's my job. And I was fortunate enough to be able to secure a couple of interviews with major people in Black college sports. So my job is going great. And I was thinking about something. Something happened to me this weekend that literally threw me for a loop. It's not the first time it's happened, but every time it happens, it blows my mind. So there was a conference championship doubleheader at one of the local high schools. Matter of fact, my high school, Howard High School of Technology, class of 99. What's up? And as I'm walking into the gym, the way you get to Howard's gym is you got to go through the front door, show your press pass or your ticket, walk through the metal detectors. Unfortunately, that's the way of the world right now, just to keep everybody safe. After the security guard goes through my bag, rather disrespectfully, mind you, but guess he was just having a bad day. Oh, well. So anyway, I'm walking towards the gym, but to get towards the gym, you got to go by the concession stands. And as I'm walking past concession stands, I hear a voice, Mr. Stevens. Who? Who is Mr. Stevens? It's obvious the kid is talking to me. It's a young man named RJ Matthews. He was he's actually a quarterback for the Virginia State football team. And he went to Howard. He was the starting quarterback. He was an all-state quarterback and an all-conference point guard on the basketball team. His dad is the boys basketball coach. So, we know each other really well. And just to hear him call me out like that, it just shocked my system. Don't get me wrong. I am thrilled that young people still have manners. And it's not a surprise because his parents are great people. But it just literally got me to thinking, God damn, am I really that old now? Really? 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 Man, I tell you, that blew my mind. But it made me think about how our upbringing influences what we do. That's just cause and effect. That's just common sense. Once again, writer talking about his 2 cents with common sense. 2 + 2 = 4, all that good stuff. And I think about how my upbringing was probably similar to the young man who called me Mr. Stevens. I just can't get over that. I don't want to be Mr. Stevens yet. I don't, but I am. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. I mean, that young man did nothing wrong. I'm just having an existential crisis at 43 years old. Go figure. But, when I started thinking about my own upbringing, and I think about how a lot of my peers had a little more free reign than I did as a kid. Like, I don't want to say I was completely terrified of my mother and my grandmother or my uncle/godfather, but my dad being absent just had them ready to pounce on anything I did. In the wrong, anyway. But I never had a chance to do anything wrong because I was too scared to do anything wrong, but I didn't even know what was right most of the time. And it's just something that I have had to come to grips with as an adult because, therapy kind of walks you through these scenarios, and I really need to get back in therapy so bad. I don't know how I'm going to do it because, I have enough money to pay my rent, keep the light on, keep some food in the fridge, clothes on my back, and not much else. But I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out a way to get myself back into therapy somehow because I miss it. Lord, I miss it. And I think about how a lot of my peers appeared to have free reign. And then it didn't dawn on me till recently that I had to check myself about other people's upbringings. Like, yeah, I could lament about how mine felt really restrictive, but I don't know what was going on in other people's houses. And it was none of my business to begin with. It just, a lot of kids had the appearance of freedom. I'll say that, And then it dawned on me as I got older, that a lot of these kids made mistakes that their parents could probably afford to, cover up. And then I look back on how we were, coming up. I mean, we were never homeless. We never had lights cut off. We never had anything like that. But I mean, we weren't rich by any means. I mean, we were making it. But, when I think about it, I was like, there's no way that, I could crash my mother's car and not feel the wrath of everybody. Actually, I did as a 20 something, but that's another story for another day. But, I went to school with teenage parents. I did. And a lot of the times, their parents never really seemed too upset about it. And granted, this is more, leaning off into the dating aspect of my life, but it still has a relation to how I was raised. That when you think about how sex was really starting to become freely, I guess, discussed and, socialized in terms of, media presentation, different things of that nature, it made it seem like that everybody at some point or another was fucking. It did. And even as a teenager, that felt as an adult, that felt really ridiculous to feel as a teenager. But, I knew guys that would brag about girls that would, let them hit or whatever, all of that stuff. And it's like, do you really want to believe a bunch of teenage boys in 1995, 96, 97, 98, 99? Could it have happened? Sure. Sure. I mean, a lot of kids, this was the latchkey kid era. A lot of our parents were single parents that worked and a lot of them didn't have grandparents in the home, and if the grandparents were home, they were still working too. I mean, everybody that had a driver's license and wasn't in school was working. And even if you were in school, some people still had after school jobs. I was one of them. But, there are times when kids have a little bit of free time to sort of, explore. And I mean, maybe, yeah, sure. But a lot of guys were just, bragging to make themselves feel better. And for a lonely, fat nerd like myself, it just felt like the end of the world. And then I realized that probably shouldn't have been that worried about that at that particular point in time in my life. My mind was just like so many different places as opposed to where it needed to be, was trying to figure out where I was going to go to college, get my grades straight, because I was a smart kid, but I was easily distracted. I was easily discouraged. I didn't know that I was dealing with anxiety and depression at that particular time. I just knew that things just got real tough for me. And by the time my senior year came around, there was no way I was going to Clark Atlanta. There was no way I was going to Hampton. There was no way I was going to North Carolina Central. Those were my three dream schools, by the way. Those were my three. People ask, what schools were your dream schools and what schools did you end up at? My top three was Hampton. Hampton was number one because I went to Hampton. There was a college tour I went on with a church when I was 16. We went up and down the East Coast. And Clark, I enjoyed because it was like dead in the middle of Atlanta. North Carolina Central was in Durham, even though it was kind of like, Durham is kind of like, in that time, reminded me of Wilmington a little bit, just like a southern Wilmington. And I thought that was cool. But Central was a nice campus as well. And then, of course, we came back north. We got to Hampton, and I was just like, I don't want to leave here. I do not. The home by the sea, everything, the prestige that the university had, and, of course, the girls. Oh, my God. Hampton had some of the most beautiful women in 1998. And then when I went to my other school, that I went to, and then started, covering HBCU sports as a college student, I mean, that didn't change as we got into the early and the middle 2000s. But I wasn't going to Hampton. I wasn't going to Clark. I wasn't going to Central. I wasn't going anywhere. I barely graduated. In fact, I missed graduation. I had to finish my diploma in summer school for geometry. And that's why I hate math. And I ended up at Delaware State. And I don't regret my time at Delaware State. I regret how I handled it. And that's on me. But, just a lot of these things that I didn't know I was dealing with as a teenager that informed my 20s and most of my 30s. It was just like, it was a rough time. And I blamed my upbringing for that, because I felt like if my mom had let me do more of this, if my mom had let me do more of that, if she didn't make me scared to, breathe, maybe my life would be a little bit easier. I don't know that for sure. I don't. I can sit here and say that maybe, yeah, my life would have been easier if I had been able to, have a little free reign, stay out with the boys or, go chasing girls after dark and all of this other shit. But we don't know if that would have happened. In fact, I'm probably sure I would have been just as unsuccessful at 16 in dating as I am right now. I mean, it's just hard to sort of wrap your mind around. As much as you want to play hindsight is 2020 and if was a fifth and woulda, coulda, shoulda and all of that, it really doesn't change much. And it definitely doesn't change your present. And it has damn little to do with your future. So, I mean, this is just something that, a kid saying Mr. Stevens all had me thinking about an existential crisis over the course of the last 24 hours. That's the facts, man. Like literally, it's so interesting that, you still learn from people of all walks of life. I mean, you can learn from anybody, really. I mean, everybody's like older people definitely have more wisdom, but even kids sometimes, teenagers, you can still learn something from them. Like a 19-year-old kid who's was homecoming king, a popular athlete, everything that, most boys dream of being, and is playing college football in college. And he still finds time to say Mr. Stevens and gives me my respect as an adult. And it's like, damn, the kids are all right. It's the adults that are the problem. And, I count myself in that, because I'm still, dealing with this sort of, like I said, if my mom had just let me breathe, maybe my life would be a little bit easier. And I can say that, but do I know that for sure? Eh, eh, eh. It depends. I mean, I do wish, I mean, and a lot of the stuff that I felt like was restrictive and held me back, I could have taken care of that in college. But no, I just absolutely was just like not in the right frame of mind to make friends, party, talk to girls. The only good memories I have of college are all sports related, and that stinks. And that's my fault. And I say this, hopefully this reaches like some younger kids out there, some younger black boys specifically, because you don't want to spend most of your prime adult years with resentment towards women or the guys that women love. Because I've been there, done that, and got the t-shirt. And it's not a fulfilling existence. That's why at the ripe old age of 43, I finally figured out that, actually, you know what? My epiphany happened when I was 36, because I used to go for walks when I was unemployed. I was still freelancing for local newspapers, but I didn't have a job until I finally got hired at the library. And God, I really need to start hitting y'all with more of my library stories, because that place was crazy. But I used to walk, and, I would have music on in my ears, because that would be the only way I could just like, keep one foot in front of the other, because I've been at this weight loss thing forever. And 2017 was when Hove dropped the 444 album. And it was just like the most vulnerable, introspective, and accountable he's probably ever been for his life on wax. And I just kept thinking back to that song when he was just talking about this title track, when he was talking about emotional availability, what if you over my shit, and different things of that nature. And Hove was 47 when that album came out. So he was about 10, 11 years older than I was. And I was, just thinking about, yeah, this ain't for, growth is painful. If your growth is linear and it's easy for you, you are doing a lot better than the most of us, because a lot of us have had to grow, and grow ugly, and grow hard, and grow painful, and grow tough. But it's still growth all the same. And that doesn't absolve what your past is. Your past is your past, but at the same time, it still exists. It doesn't get, erased or whatever. And just the fact that I was so projective in how I saw myself, that and how I ran women off, and how any woman that would have been interested in me was just like so tired of me hating on myself, that they were just like, this nigga is a lost cause. And I was. And I'm still trying to unwrap all of that stuff. And and then when I started thinking about it, the more I started, going to therapy, the more weight I lost physically, the more I still felt like this chasm of, just emptiness. It was like, I can't blame my upbringing for everything. It's just impossible to do that. And it was up to me to take accountability for the fact that I never bothered in a timely fashion to start making moves that would better my life from a social standpoint. That's on me. Like, yeah, I can be mad that, my mom would, that my mom absolutely flipped out when she caught me watching porn at 13 and tried to banish me to my room forever and ever. And then my grandmother stepped in and, took care of that. And then she finally gave me the birds and the bees talk, and just talking about, don't bring no babies home. Sex is between two people who love each other, and porn is not it, and blah, 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 blah. And, that had me, just the way, and honestly, I get it. My mom was a single mom. She was a social worker. So she saw a little bit of everything. She saw a little bit of everything in the 90s, trying to help folks. And, come home, you have a sensitive, awkward son, and then you have the rebellious younger daughter who is torn with her sexuality. And yes, my sister is a lesbian. So, and my mom didn't know how to handle any of that. My mom was a boomer dealing with late 90s problems with her kids. And maybe she could have handled it better, sure, but can't blame her for all of it. And that's something that I've had to, kind of sort of reckon with as I get older. That, yeah, yeah, you could be upset about it, but if you had really wanted to take the initiative to change your life at a timely fashion, you would have. I'm talking about myself, of course. And that's something I want to sort of impart on any young man that may stumble upon this. Matter of fact, I know a lot of my subscribers are people my age or older. So if you have a teenage black boy who you feel like might be venturing off into red pill, manosphere, incel bullshit, send him this video, because this is a heart to heart from a older man who lived that life to some degree. And it's not something that I'm proud of, and it's not something that I look back on and say, damn, that was just, kids being kids, but yeah, just being bitter about women not choosing me and not being what I felt women wanted, because I just couldn't see myself. I couldn't see past my own self to try to be better. And that's the problem with a lot of guys, regardless of age, regardless of race, regardless of hobbies, career, physical build. A lot of guys are so insecure with themselves that they don't even try to be better. They just see that there's no hope because they feel like women all want, I don't know what the black term would be for chads. It's like, it's pretty easy, the beat it chick meme. That fits. A lot of guys who feel like, they're weaklings, and women only choose what they perceive to be strong, whether that be like ridiculously handsome dudes or rough and tumble guys, or thugs, whatever you want to call them, pretty boys or thugs. It's the same. Whatever. You get the picture. And then it never dawns on guys that you are writing your own script, and you've written yourself as a secondary character in your own story. And when you write yourself as a secondary character in your own story, you can't get mad when people read the shit and say, oh, this character doesn't matter, because that's how he's written. You got to write yourself. You got to write your story as though you are the main character, as though you are the hero, as though you are the love interest. And that has to do with just being a better human being. And granted, it is what it is. Some guys who, present tough. Yeah, they get women. Some guys that are just like blessed with genes to have like handsome features. Yeah, they get women. I think women are a little more open to dealing with guys who aren't, classically attractive, because women have more sensitivity. They feel things more. Women are more, I guess, intellectually wired and emotionally wired. Like, you might be nice to look at, but can she come to you when she's having a bad day? Can y'all talk about something other than, whatever, can you guys have conversations that go beyond the surface? That's a lot of shit that, guys don't really think about. They just think about, oh, women only like, pretty boys and thugs, and I'm not one of them. So whatever they get, that's what they deserve. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, you've just written yourself as a secondary character in your own story. You got to write yourself as the main character, because it's your story. Your life is your story. And if you write yourself in the background, then people are only going to see you in the background. But if you write yourself as, the guy that people, can come to when they need advice or they need help, or someone that women can feel comfortable and safe and secure around, because that literally is half the battle. If a woman feels like she can be herself around you, then everything else just kind of sort of, falls into place. It's like a domino effect. Like if a woman is just like, you know what, I ain't got to worry about, him trying anything funny, or, him just, me being a notch on his belt. And to some degree, women don't mind, if that's what you're really trying to do. If you're trying to collect numbers, not a lot of women are going to go for it, but the ones that do, they're definitely going to make you do it on their terms. And if you can't handle that, then they just won't be a notch on your belt. That's the way of the world. But it literally just, there's a way that you can be better human beings without feeling like, you're jumping through hoops. I'll never forget. That used to be my favorite saying. I was like, people want me to jump through hoops of fire to be this, and that. And it really was just a matter of fact of being a better human being. That's what it is, man. That's what it is. You got to make the choice to be better. You have to, and you have the choice of writing yourself as the main character in your life story. If you write yourself as a secondary character, if you write yourself as the dude who women pass over for this guy or that guy, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you just continually say bad things about yourself and say bad things about the people you claim to be attracted to, then it's not going to work out in your favor. That's not how it works. You have to literally, that's why manifesting things is key. That's why speaking things into existence is key. You have to say that I am someone who is whatever your best qualities are. You could be smart, you could be handsome, you could be funny, you could be a hard worker, you can be a comfort to people, you can be a helpful person, you can be anything positive, and you need to speak those things into existence. You need to play up those qualities, and you just generally need to be a person that people will look at and say, okay, he's cool. And women can be like, all right, he doesn't seem like a complete creep. I mean, no, he's not Kofi Siriboe. He's not Michael B. Jordan. He's not Sterling K. Brown, but he's nice. He's funny, and he has a brain. A lot of times, I mean, that's really all it takes. And it really dawned on me that, damn, I mean, like literally 36. I was 36 when I literally said, I've been going about this the wrong fucking way the whole time. And that's what the last 7-8 years of my life has been, basically trying to figure out, where to go from here. Like, I can't change the past, but I can definitely have a better hand in my present and my future. And that's what I've been working on. And that's what I encourage every man to work on, regardless of his age. But if you're a younger man, don't fall into these spaces where people like Andrew Tate and, people who worship Andrew Tate, people who worship Tory Lanez, people who worship whackademics, those dudes mean you no good. These are dudes who hate women. And a lot of times, a lot of guys who have these followings are just lonely dudes who, if they were attractive to women, I mean, hey, that's why we have a shadow president. Elon Musk is mad because women wouldn't fuck him with someone else's vagina, and that his daughter is trans and she wants nothing to do with him. So he's just decided to just burn the world down because he doesn't want to take accountability for the fact that he's a fucking moron. That's what it boils down to. There's no, I mean, that's the problem with a lot of this manosphere, red pill, we need to bring masculinity back. Masculinity to these guys is just forcing themselves on every fucking body. That's basically it. That's basically it. And I can't abide by that. I can't sit idly by when I realize that, no, I wasn't as harmful as what Musk is trying to do, or what any of these red pill manosphere dudes are trying to do. But I wasn't very, I didn't do myself any favors, being self-hateful and envious of the other guys and blaming women for not wanting me instead of, taking accountability for why women didn't want me. So this really veered off. I really thought this podcast was going to be about 15 minutes long. I swear to God. But it went a full 30. That's fine now. But to close it out, bring it home. This is my 2 cents for the week. Well, maybe not for the week. I may have another show planned. God, I have a busy 2 or 3 weeks coming up, but I'm going to try to be mindful of this podcast because I owe it to you guys, because if we're going to grow, then I need to be consistent. So yeah. So my 2 cents for this particular episode is, you need to write yourself as the main character in your story. Do not write yourself as a secondary character. Do not write yourself as the antagonist. Do not write yourself as the villain. You got to write yourself as the protagonist. You got to write yourself as the hero. You got to write yourself as the love interest. You got to write yourself as the advisor or the, the sage to somebody. You can write your own story. Write it well. Write it great. Don't make yourself anything less than what you want to be. If you want to be, a loathsome, lonely, bitter, lonely ass dude, then fine, write that story. But if you want to be desired, if you want to be liked, if you want to be loved, if you want to have a fulfilling dating and sex life, write your story as such. It's that damn simple. That's how it should be. I mean, nothing about this is really like, cut and dry, but right, just being a better person and working towards being a better person definitely helps. That's my 2 cents for the week. And I thank y'all for checking out the Chris 2 Cents podcast. Greatly appreciate your time as always. On YouTube and Spreaker, the contact information will be in the description below. Thank you all for watching and listening. This might be the only episode of the week, or it may not, but I'll let you guys know. You guys will know when it's up. So thank y'all for watching and listening. So until the next time we speak, y'all be good or be good at it.